It's exciting to be here. I'm really glad to get to share this tool that it's definitely a wellness tool. It's a big recovery support for me as well. So I'm Julie Bradley, and I've been a certified peer since 2011. Working at the same agency the whole time. I work at Comprehensive Life Resources. We are a behavioral health agency and also a certified community behavioral health clinic in downtown Tacoma in the Hilltop. We serve about 3,500 clients a year, unhoused individuals, kids, families. We've got a WISE team. We have a CLIP facility, which is Children's Long-Term Inpatient Unit. We've got a pretty sizable adult RTF, residential treatment facility, that has, I think, like 80 or 90 people at any given time. And so I really love the values of my agency, and we're learning to embrace and really work well with peer support across all the different teams that involve peers and youth partners, and I've gotten to be in a leadership role over the years, really supporting our peers. And so, um, and that's really exciting to me. And oftentimes, peers ask what's been helpful for me. And almost always I say number one is like journaling. And so I love journaling. I don't really talk about it a lot, so it's kind of fun to have an opportunity to do so. I started journaling when I was really young, like probably it was Dear Diary back when I was 8, and I got my first diary about that time. And when I looked back at it several years ago, I thought, well, it was like, it was really Dear Diary stuff, like, oh, had whatever for lunch today, or somebody at school was nice to me, or those really kind of like 8-year-old kind of memories. And I was kind of surprised to see, for the most part, it was positive and happy, because in my early teens, my story did not turn out very positive and happy. And I started journaling pretty seriously as my serious mental illness symptoms began and got really intense. And journaling, I think for me early on, was a way to sort of keep to myself, but also get out some of the things that were happening to me that I really didn't understand. I had a part of one of my symptoms was I kind of a selective mutism. I wasn't talking. But yet I still had so many thoughts and so many hallucinations and really disturbing things that I needed to express somehow. So fortunately, journaling was a way that I could just kind of put all that stuff out and privately, and it was really kind of a thing that kept me sort of sane even amidst all those symptoms, and kept me alive in a lot of ways. And then in my 20s, I spent most of my 20s mostly in inpatient hospitalization, psychiatric hospitalization, and journaling still was a thing that I could do in the long nights when I couldn't sleep and I was up, and between when I couldn't get out to have a cigarette, there was nobody to take me out. And so it just kind of became a companion, and really gave me a way to sort of track what was going on with me, and begin to articulate and share, and with myself, discover myself kind of, and make sense of things, process things. And later, when I got a really good therapist that I trusted, I was able to share, and I could kind of write more than I could speak, and I would share parts of that, and it really helped us to get, work through a little deeper parts in the therapy. And so I've journaled kind of forever, and different types of journaling. This is my current journal. I know Carrie held hers up. So you see, I kind of just pick notebooks up wherever. I like this one. It says, I need space. And I thought, that's a really good. So you can kind of see at the top of the slide there, the yellow papers. I stick scraps of paper in there. I stick stickers in, and that's my pen, just a cheap old, kind of cheap pen. And then on the right side, you can kind of see the blank pages. There aren't very many left. I'm getting ready to start a new one. I have, from the years of growing up, I always used a green spiral notebook, the kind you could buy at Kmart back when there was Kmarts. And I filled 43 of those over several years. And all the times I moved, I would tote them around in this big plastic tote. And about 3 years ago, I thought, this is ridiculous because now I live in a tiny space and I was really feeling cluttered by all that stuff. And I still would sometimes go back and page through them. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to digitize those. So it was a lengthy process. I got them all unspiral bound and then just digitized it all. So now it's in my Google Drive and probably takes up most of my free memory space in Google Drive, but there it is, and I don't have to lug those heavy totes around anymore. But I still keep them. I know for some journalers, there's a question of, oh, what do I do with this? There's the privacy concern. I would not want someone to find my journal, and I would feel pretty exposed and violated in a lot of ways. So ways to do that. But so that's where I'm at right now. I'm finishing up that little I need space one and haven't picked out what my next one's going to be yet. But for me, one of the benefits is it doesn't have to be an expensive self-care plan. It's very adaptable to the time and place and amount of money that one has. I find that sometimes I do get a little addicted to buying office supplies, and then there they sit. Like if it's too pretty, then I'm like, oh, I don't want to write in that. So it works better for me just to kind of follow my intuition and get something that works. That's the biggest secret, is do what works for you. So, obviously the kind of topic today is how journaling can enhance our well-being. I want to kind of review some common objections and alternatives too that people can do if writing isn't your thing. One of the biggest things I hear when I do talk with peers about journaling is like, oh, I'm not a writer. So there's tons of other ways that people can get the same benefits going. So some reasons that people object: obviously, I just don't have time to journal, the time constraint, or sometimes people worry that I'm not a good writer. I won't do it perfectly. I won't do it right. Obviously, privacy is a big deal. Maybe some of us in our past have had someone, kind of get a hold of our journal and read it, and the consequences were not nice. So that can be a big fear, that people don't want to write stuff down because they don't want the risk that someone will find it. Lack of motivation. I just don't have the energy to do it. Writer's block. I've never had a problem with writer's block, and I can talk more about that because there's lots of ways to access, for me, things that are going on inside of me or that I want to explore. Sometimes just our own internal resistance, like if I'm working with a really hard thing, like maybe feeling shame or guilt, I might not want to explore what that's like in writing. It can be as self-contained and private as it is. Sometimes inside of me, I don't want to go there. Then just kind of not knowing how to get started or how to do it. And then just the sense of, I wouldn't be good at this, or it won't help, it won't make a difference. So I think there's been a lot of research done around the health and wellness benefits. So I want to just kind of talk about that for a minute, and then kind of highlight again some of the practical advantages. So the health benefits, there's a lot of research. I do have a references slide at the end that will give some citations for some of this data that's been found. But mental health benefits, I know for my own self, I've experienced the stress reduction, anxiety reduction, more emotional clarity. All of those things can really help improve my ability to be present in my daily life as an adjunct to medication or therapy. Cognitively, I'm a word person, so words are my way of processing, and it helps me to remember things. I mean, aside from just making notes, as time goes on, years of medication have really impacted my memory. So it helps me with the timestamp of things, because I'll go back and read like 4 months ago and think, oh, wow, that was 4 months ago. It's kind of like, ooh, helps with problem solving skills. I can identify areas maybe where I'm stuck or in this kind of pattern of unhelpful thinking from kind of a cognitive behavioral standpoint, decreased rumination. I love to use a brain dump. Like sometimes I'll wake up in the early morning, like 3 a.m., and my mind is just stuffed, like overflowing file cabinets and file folders, and they're falling out and making a mess. And so I will sometimes just get up and do a brain dump, just this kind of stream of consciousness, all of that, get that out. And it's amazingly relieving to be able to do that. Just, I don't have to hold on to all that stuff anymore, get that out. And I found that very helpful. Physical health benefits, this is an interesting one, but it's true. When our mind is more clear and we're able to let go of some of that mental stress, it does help us sleep better. It improves immune function because we're not so stressed out. And just general health symptoms management. I've got a pretty serious autoimmune disorder, and sometimes I'll use kind of an informal pain tracking in my journal too, kind of like, here's what I ate today, and here's what my pain level is. Again, kind of look for patterns and in my behavior and my eating and my symptoms. Another good way that a journal can be kind of utilized. And just overall wellness benefits. I think you can probably hear me in my story, like how it's really helped with my self-understanding. It's helped me sometimes see where I really am hard on myself and harsh on myself and living out other people's, not unkind messages to me. And I can kind of rewrite that and reframe that, my narrative. And so from a self-compassionate standpoint, it's been really helpful, helping me identify and just align with what is my higher value and my higher purpose, and is my life going in a way that feels right or is right. And if not, sometimes my journaling will, like, both the tone and the content, but sometimes even just my urgency around needing to write or my sense of not wanting to write about a thing. All those things are kind of indicators to me of something's going on. And do I need to explore that via journaling or by talking to a peer or a professional or something? So, and just overall, I think it's helped my self-confidence, like the sense of having an ally inside myself and this tool to access that helps me feel more grounded and able to go about my day. I don't know. Sometimes, I'll run for my journal at the end of the day, like, oh my God, it was the awfulest day, or oh, this was the best day ever. And I live alone, so there isn't always a person, and my kitty is no longer with me. So that's a sad thing too. But it used to be, the other beings in my life. So it's nice to have the journal. So those are just some benefits that are pretty well researched and apparent. And then I like this quote from Flannery O'Connor: "I write because I don't know what I think until I read what I say." So sometimes I'm just in this muddled mess in my head, and I can write something down and think, wow, that really tells me a lot about what's going on. And so self-discovery. I like it also it helps me at least be able to remember my strengths. This quote is really neat from Anne Frank, who is the gal that wrote the Diary of Anne Frank. She was a young Jewish girl who was shut away in the attic of a house during the Nazi occupation of Holland back during World War II. And her diary is an incredible, if you've never experienced reading her diary, it's a powerful example of all the best aspects of journaling. And she said, "I can shake off everything as I write. My sorrows disappear and my courage is reborn." So another way journals helpful, I think it really helps me live from my best self. It's because it's paying attention to inside for the purpose of living well from, outward. So and this, I like this one. I'm a Kermit fan. Sometimes when I look back at parts of my journal, I can really see, like, oh man, I was working on this same snaggly place in my life like 8 years ago, and it's been this thing. So it's not always always a glorious feeling to go back and read. But other times I'm like, wow, wow, that's where I was at all those years ago. And look at where I am now, and just in my personal life or emotional life or professional life. So it can be pretty revealing. And the nice thing about it is it's private. It's just me and my thoughts. And I don't have to share that or reveal that if I don't want to, but I can if I want to. So I like this slide a lot. This says a lot. I think this was kind of my story around journaling. This is the self-compassion piece. Practical, it's something I can do by myself. I don't need anyone around me or any fancy thing. I do like to write at Starbucks, but that's just because of the tea and I don't know, nice environment. It's convenient. It's can always be with me. My journals are usually small and portable. It's easy to access. Doesn't have to be costly. People, you don't have to have a $100 fountain pen to use a journal. Some people do, and that's fine. It's kind of a thing that we get to define and use the way that works best for us, which to me, what a great recovery and wellness tool. And so some of you, I'm guessing, have wrap plans. Wrap plans, huge. To me, that's part of journaling as well. Even a good when I'm developing my wrap plan or adapting it to, updating it, I guess what I want to say, I sometimes can get information out of my journal, or sometimes what's in my wrap plan will go into my journal, ideas and stuff. So it's always a confidant that's always available. So can remind us of our goals and of our learning. And it offers a place where we really can hold a deliberate, thoughtful conversation with ourselves. And I do that sometimes by using prompts. Like I'll write a question at the top of the page, like, what's bugging me today? Like I'll have some kind of feeling and don't know what it is. And I'll just write out like, what am I feeling? Where am I feeling it? Does it have a color? Does it have a name? What does it want to tell me? And just kind of write all that stuff out. And it's very self-therapeutic. And I don't have to pay $100 an hour for that. So if you haven't started journaling, or maybe you want to get back started at it, I really recommend keeping it simple. That is, keep your tools simple, your journal simple. People sometimes know that I like to write and like to journal, and they'll give me this like leather bound thing that looks like it's from the Middle Ages. And it's so daunting to me that I usually just kind of regift those, because I also don't want to be carrying around some like big saddlebag looking journal. I love that people, give me those gifts, but I found that like like Carrie, or just a simple little notebook that works for me. And also sometimes those are more discreet and less likely to be kind of a red flag to people, like, oh, that's the journal. I wonder what's in there. If it's just like an ordinary notebook. So I recommend keeping it simple, but you do you, choose the equipments that are going to work for you, because the best way to journal and get started is just to do it. And you're going to do what's going to work for you. And that's totally what I support and encourage. Set goals and intentions if that helps you. Some people want to write 10 minutes a day or 5 minutes a day, or morning pages was a big thing back in the day. People get up and I never really did that, but it sounded like kind of a brain dump for half an hour, and then you move about your day. Or maybe you want to do a month of gratitude journaling, or a month of processing an anger thing, or working on a relationship. Or so to me, just the sky's the limit. It's like whatever one might need to explore about one's inner life, or work on improving or developing professional goals, personal goals. Journaling is a wonderful accompaniment to whatever else we might be doing to improve our lives and our well-being, or support ourselves. So again, just find a routine that works for you. I don't write every day. Some days, I'll sometimes go 3 days feeling the urge to write and the need to write, but I don't write. And I've learned about myself that that's because what's in there percolating isn't ready to come out yet. And I don't want to try to make a thing happen that then I'll get frustrated. And so one of my rules for myself about journaling is no guilt, no guilt, no shame, no blame, no guilt. And that makes it a more of a wellness tool for me. If it was a thing I had to do or had to do a certain way, or I think it would take away the emotional and psychological safety benefits that it's provided for me. So types of journaling, infinite, but stream of consciousness, I'll do that. I think Aaron shared that too, that is kind of the, reflecting on what's going on in me, but just stream of consciousness, talking with myself, with the inner characters, guided prompts, creative journaling. Again, if writing isn't your thing, you can draw, you can cut, do a vision board in a journal or on a piece of paper. Reflective journaling, letter writing. Sometimes we have maybe somebody that we really want to say something to, or say something to ourselves, and just with the idea that I'm never going to send this person's never going to see this, but I'm going to write out my deepest feelings and thoughts and regrets or gratitudes, and just daily record keeping. So I have a little slide for that. I like this one. Day 53, they still do not know I'm a cat. I thought that was funny. So, just kind of noting the important details of our life. I think somebody earlier on mentioned kind of using it as a timestamp, and it definitely has helped me with that too. What was going on last February, for example, for better or worse. So prompts, again, you can pick any theme or topic that feels what you want to explore. And I really am a big believer in just Googling topics and around that area, and you'll get more than you can manage, most likely, and they're free, absolutely free. You can pay for prompts if you want, but I'm kind of in a budgetary thing. So, and then I really encourage, part of my thing is no guilt about it, but give yourself permission just to let it flow and not censor or judge or have an opinion about your opinions. Just they get to come out, it's let it flow and just write. And there's a gratitude journal. And the best time to begin is whenever you decide. So it's kind of that Nike thing. Just do it and try it. It might not be your jam, but if you've never done it before, you might end up being the next whatever, some great writer or something. I don't aspire to be a great writer. Well, I used to, but I let that go. And incorporating it into your life, I really recommend, if journaling, you want to do it somewhat regularly. Like for me, it's one of the things I look forward to doing when I go to Starbucks. It's like usually I'll pull out my journal and journal for a few minutes till I get out what needs to come out. And then I just enjoy my tea or music or work on my photos or something. So sometimes linking it to something that you're already doing in your daily life routine, especially around wellness stuff. Like if you're a hiker or a walker and you go for a daily walk, maybe after you get back, you can journal about whatever you saw or were thinking about. I find sometimes walks substitute for journaling. Like I'll just kind of get it out while I'm walking, and then I don't need to journal. So again, if it's one of your health and wellness tools in your toolkit, you do what works for you and what's most helpful. I do want to have one little thing here. So it's not always a helpful practice, and it's not always a healthy practice. And I know from lived experience that sometimes journaling just becomes a written rumination, and it just reinforces the negativity and the rut and the painful place I'm in. So that can be really counterproductive if I just get kind of churning, day after day or thought after thought. So these are sort of some yellow or red flags for you to watch if you're, kind of feeling some of these things or noticing these things happening in your journaling. These are, to me, indications that I should maybe explore some other way of processing or working with stuff. If it triggers trauma, we know that, anytime we're working with our own trauma and trauma narratives for ourselves, it can be really stressful. And if my journaling, at times when my journaling gets me too activated or it activates too many painful things. I know I'm either not ready or this isn't the helpful way to go about working on that material right now. And that's okay. That's okay. It's information for me to take and maybe stop journaling and work out that stuff some other way. Obsessive behavior, if it becomes obsessive, it has in parts of my life, when it's my go-to anxiety management thing, it's like for me, any other addiction, which I'm prone to, it's not going to be helpful if that becomes the total focus of my day and the only way I'm processing or the only way I'm um, letting myself work through my inner stuff. So kind of moderation is a good rule of thumb. Not too much, not too little, the middle path. And avoiding action. I know for myself, I do that paralysis by analysis a lot in my daily life, and I can use journaling to justify not moving forward. I'll spend days and months and years writing about why I'm not moving forward and how I'm stuck and all the barriers. And it becomes sometimes it eventually becomes clear to me that, like, well, a lot of this is just perseverating on not moving forward on a thing I need to move forward on or could move forward on. And so that's just another kind of, potential what hazard of being a journaler or journaling. And then the privacy risks, which several folks have, mentioned, very legitimate concerns. And so, you know, maybe figure out a way that you could. It's really interesting that even in the digital world, it's pretty easy to believe that there is no safe way to kind of write our private stuff down. And so I would love to know if anybody does any research on that, how you get around that one. Yeah. So it's a very legitimate concern. If people, especially like if someone's unhoused or they have to move a lot or they're in an unsafe housing situation and might have to vacate quickly, it's a very legitimate concern. Totally, totally valid. But thank you for letting me kind of share this little passion I have for journaling, and thanks for everything you all shared. I'm very grateful.